am Jessica Bell from My Wine School, where it is wine your way. Welcome back to all of you who were at the Wine Newbie tasting, and welcome to all those who are new, coming and signing on for the first time. As you guys knew from the earlier wine tasting, I've got my favorite chef in the room, who also happens to be my sister. So if you haven't already said hello to Karen, please say hello to Karen. And Karen, we need to hear your pretty voice again.
Hello.
So Karen's in the house. Okay, and go ahead and get your wine open. For those of you, I got to do this every time. For those, because I always get questions. Well, how do I chat? How do I get part of the conversation? Well, here you go. If you're joining us live, off to the right, this is where the conversations are happening. Under audience, just type something in, anything. Don't worry, it won't show up, I promise, unless you're logged in. So if you know your login, go ahead and use it. If not, sign up, fill out 4 or 5 different fields, and boom, you are a part of the conversation. So now we are on to WineCAST number 10. We've gone from 9 to 10, and we are at Wine Explorer. So in Wine Explorer, we start to get a little bit more advanced in terms of tasting and also in terms of technical knowledge. And if you get a little lost today, you're like, ooh, I don't know about all this, what she's talking about. Go check out WineCAST number 8. We went through all of the terms that we're going to be using in this WineCAST. So make sure you've watched WineCAST 8 if you haven't already. And this week in our Wine Explorer course, we are doing Italian reds. So in the Wine Newbie course, we did a Northern Italian red, Barbera d'Asti. And now we're going to be doing the Terredora Dipaolo, which is an Aglianico grape. It's from Campania in Italy, and it's 2009. So all this talk about Italian reds is getting me really hungry, and everyone came up with these great pairing ideas. I mean, I'm having dreams of homemade gnocchi and osso buco. And Karen, what's your favorite Italian dish?
Oh, that's a difficult question. There's so much to choose from in so many areas. But obviously all the cured meats and salamis and cheeses, especially burrata cheese, I love.
Okay, so cured meats, it just gets, it's difficult for them to hear you, so I just want to make sure it's not a lull there. But a lot of the cured meats and the burrata cheese, anything else?
Bagnacata I love.
Babnanaba? Sorry, I'm done. See, this is why she's a chef and I eat the food. I just tell me what I'm supposed to eat. So babanaba. Bagnacata. Eh? Okay, so this is the wine we're trying right now, and let's see. It's I don't know what's going on in that label at the top. I don't know what they're doing. Okay, actually, I do know what they're doing. They are doing the dance of wine. If you watched WineCAST 8, another reason to go back and watch WineCAST 8, we talked about the dance of wine. So this is here we have our picture, the dance of wine. Very, very nice. Okay, but we do have a lot going on in this label. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pick it apart so that you can read it. Now, you guys, a lot of you just came from reading Italian wine labels, so you guys are going to be absolute pros at this. So actually, let's review what we went over in WineCAST number 9. We mentioned that there are certain acronyms used to designate a specific and controlled wine region in Italy. And the one that you guys chose was not a specific and controlled wine region in Italy, was the DOB. So what we're looking for on our labels, our Italian wine labels, is DOC, DOCG, or IGT. Now the wine that we had in WineCAST 9 was a DOCG. Let's look at this label. See if you can find remember I told you it's the smallest font? So you're looking for that, one of those words. So it's either Denominazione di origine controllata, Denominazione di origine controllata e garantita, DOCG, or it's Indicazione Geografica Tipica, IGT. So can you find it? All right, just in case you can't, again, here comes the big green arrow. So no fear, now everyone knows where it is. So remember, when we're reading Italian labels, you look for one of those important classification terms. So IGT is on here. Now, let me tell you, you guys are at a higher level, so let me actually tell you a little bit more about this concept of DOC, DOCG, and then we have IGT on the other end of the spectrum. I don't know if it's a spectrum, but they're 2 different camps. We'll do camps instead, better analogy. So DOC and DOCG have a fundamental difference from, say, an IGT, which is what we have on the label here. DOC and DOCGs are defined more by tradition. And they're usually a lot stricter in the rules that govern that specific controlled area. And now some may see this as a negative, especially Americans. We're a very much open market and don't like our rules. But it's not all bad when you have a strict and controlling region. The result, in theory, should be better quality, and it also should be a more defined style. So we talked about this in WineCAST 9, but you have more transparency into what you're going to buy if you know what they're trying to tell you. So that's the DOCG camp. Now let's go to the other camp, the IGT camp. This follows less tradition. It actually was a newer concept that came into being around in 1992. There was a law put into effect to introduce the IGTs, the Indicazione Geografica Tipica, and these are usually less strict and less specific. So there's still rules governing what styles and grapes can be made, but they're less specific. And what that does is it allows for more innovation. But again, the drawback is as a consumer, it becomes more difficult to know what's in that bottle. So here we have our IGT. Now what we're going to be doing today is comparing Italian reds. And what we identified earlier was that first we locate the following phrases on the label, right? And then we look for the word that comes just before that. So let's look back at this label. You have the IGT, and then the word that comes right before that is Campania. Campania is a province in southern Italy. So that idea that there's less strict rules, let me show you how this works with this wine. Campania is a province. So therefore, we can know that this wine region of Campania was not determined by wine factors like climate or soil. It was determined, I don't know if you can hear people outside having a good time. It is determined by political boundaries. So again, it's less specific. It's not a specific style. As a result, you've got more flexibility and a less defined style. But the benefit of the IGT is usually there's a grape listed on the bottle. So there's our grape, Aglianico. You say, oh, never heard that one before. Okay, but Aglianico is our grape. So the wine that we had in WineCAST number 9 is the Barbera d'Asti, and that was from northern Italy. Here now we have the Campania, which is the other end of Italy in the south. So let's go ahead and try this wine. And what we're going to do is identify the similarities we found between these two reds and try and extrapolate maybe an Italian red style. And then also see what kind of differences we get from the north to the south in our reds. So go ahead and take a look at the wine. Let's start there. Always look at the wine. There's your close-up shot, okay? There's really nothing to note that is going to get us closer to understanding our objectives, which are Italian reds and understanding the style of Italian red and then the style of north versus south. Okay, but it's a medium ruby if you need to know, okay? But let's go on to what is going to help us understand the difference between, say, northern and southern Italian reds. And that's our nose, our wonderful little noses. My daughter loves noses. She just laughs at everything. Everyone has a funny nose. She goes, nose, and just starts laughing. So go ahead and use your nose and see what you can smell on this wine, okay? What we're going to start to see is that we're going to see some similarities to the wine from the north of Italy that we just had, and we're going to also see some differences. Now, while you're doing that, let me remind you about what we tasted in the northern Italian red earlier. We had a good amount of cherry. We had that medicinal note. We had some vegetal notes. And we also tend to get some dried leaves. So cherry, medicinal, vegetal. Okay, that would in a nutshell, that's kind of what we got. So you guys tell me, what are you getting on this wine here? Let's see. I kind of lost my place on the roll. Do you see anything, Karen?
Light fruit, cherry, tobacco.
So light fruit, cherry, and tobacco. Perfect.
Spice and earth.
Spice and earth, great. Okay, so you guys have just nailed it on the head. Okay, first I'll tell you a little bit about what I'm smelling too. I'm getting a lot of what you guys are getting. I'm getting a lot of dried fruit, specifically dried cherry fruit. I'm also getting leather and smoky notes on this, even some dried rose petals. I really got this really dried floral note to it, but also medicinal and cherry. And you guys mentioned that too. And so when we look at Italian reds, something that I see an underlying current. And now it's not all Italian reds, but it's a lot of them. I see a lot of Italian reds having this medicinal cherry note to them. And it's almost just, it's like in my blood. Like I'm half Italian. It's like, oof, like I can smell it. I just know it's Italian. And once you smell a lot of Italian reds, you're going to start to get that medicinal cherry note that's really unique to Italian reds. So there's some are similarities. From north to south, we really see a lot of that. But we start to see differences as well. As you guys have mentioned, in the north at Barbera d'Asti, we tend to get, with that cherry and medicinal notes, we got vegetal, a lot of vegetal notes, okay? But in the south, instead of the vegetal, we're seeing more of a dried fruit and a smoky note. I get a lot of smoke down in, this is in Campania, but if you get reds, Italian reds from, say, Puglia, which is the heel of the boot, you'll get a lot of those smoky notes as well. It's just hot down there, and some of those grapes get burnt. You know, think about the people down there. You know, they're in the sun all the time, and you see them when they're, you know, fairly old, and their skin is leather. I mean, the wine smells like leather. These you know, it's just, it's just hot down there. Whereas in the north, it's fairly cool. They're right at the base of the mountains. So now let's continue to learn the similarities of, say, the reds from Italy and the differences by tasting. That's, you know, best way I know how to learn is to actually taste. So go ahead and take a sip, or 10, whatever floats your boat tonight. It is basically like a Friday. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving, so you may as well just pretend like it's Friday and have a good time. I'll tell you, okay, both of these wines are dry, so we're not going to see any, I guess you could call that a similarity, but it's not something we're going to focus on. But what I do want you guys to focus on are the acid, tannin, and body on this wine, and we're going to compare it to the acid, tannin, and body that we're getting on the Northern Italian red. As you do that, let me talk to you a little bit about this grape. This is a really interesting grape. So it's called Aglianico, and it really can only be grown in the south of Italy. And the reason for that is that the skins are so thick, and it needs a lot of sunlight and warmth to get ripe. If we tried to plant this grape in a cooler region like the north of Italy, it would be just horrible, the wine, because it would be way too acidic. And that's the amazing thing about this Aglianico, is that even though it's fairly far south, for a warm red wine, for a red from a warm wine region, this one is known for maintaining its acid. So we'll see if we see that on this wine. We'll see if we get a preservation of acid even though it is from southern Italy. Now, that's unusual, and I think I've got time to go into this. Yeah, I totally do. Okay, so time to get geeky, guys. I know some of you like this, so we're going to get a little geeky here. But I like to understand things for the real reasons. You know, not the real reasons, but really understand why, because it makes a lot more sense. So there is an inverse relationship between sugar and acid. Now, it's not direct. You know, I was trying to do a chart there. It didn't work. But it's not a direct relationship. But usually, no, not usually, always, at the beginning of the season, the acid is really high and the sugar is really low. Well, have you ever thought about why? There's a really good reason for this. At the beginning of the season, the seed on the inside isn't ready for nature's farmers to come and deposit it elsewhere. So it's not ready for, say, the birds to eat it. The seed isn't ready to be planted somewhere else. So we've got really high acid and low sugar. It doesn't taste good. The birds, the deer, whatever's around, do not want to eat it. As the season goes by, the seed matures and becomes ready for its debut in another vineyard or another area. And so the acid starts to go down and the sugar goes up. Okay? And it gets to the point at the end of the season where we have high sugars and low acid. It tastes good, right? And at that point, the seed is ready for, say, a bird to come along and eat it up and then be nature's farmers. So Now that is maybe evolutionary speaking why it happens. Now there's all that science behind it, but science, right? So, okay, but that it's an interesting way to look at it. I got a little off track there, but let's talk about acid, tannin, and body. What are we seeing? Are we seeing anything? What are you seeing?
Lots of people are commenting on higher tannins or more tannins than the Barbera.
Perfect. So a lot of people are commenting on higher tannins than the Barbera. Now remember, the Barbera we said had a low amount of tannins. This grape I just mentioned to you has really thick skins. And as such, usually get more color, but also another thing that you can get from thick skins, tannins. So Aglianico is known for being extremely high in tannins, and we're getting this on this wine without a doubt. In fact, the Aglianicos from southern Italy are the wines that by law often require the most amount of aging at the winery. The reason why they're doing that is they want the tannins to settle down before the consumer gets it. So there's different Aglianico DOC and DOCGs and they have the longest aging requirements of all of Italy. So yes, lots of high tannin. So we'll say high tannin on this. Acid, what did you see on acid?
Well, Justin says it makes him pucker a little.
Justin says makes him pucker a little. Perfect. Yeah, it does. I think it's difficult in this wine. There's a lot going on. The alcohol's on the higher side, the tannins on the higher side, so it's almost difficult to separate out the acid. I would say the acid is around medium. And the reason why I say that is because on the palate, it doesn't have a lift to it as much. You get the puckering and the astringency at the end of after you swallow it. And so what I think is that some of that astringency is actually coming from the tannin and alcohol, and that's making your mouth water. But it's tough. I mean, I'm not saying I have the right answer here. I think, and that's the good thing about wine. Sometimes there isn't a right answer. You just have fun with it. And like I said before, just make it useful for what is useful for you. Make it do what you want it to do. So let's see. So yeah, and you guys mentioned the tannin is fairly high. This is not what we call a patio pounder. This is, Justin's puckering. People are, just like having a tough time drinking this a little. And it's because this is a food wine. That high tannin, the higher acid, it's not, as we said before, it doesn't have a ton of fruit. It's not a juicy wine. What this needs is some food, and it needs meat. This is where we're going to see a lot of like the grilled meats. You can see that smoky note that we mentioned earlier go great with some, smoky grilled meats. As well as, it's like rather than smoking it on, I don't know, do they do it on planks or something? You just add the wine. She's making funny faces at me like, oh my goodness, I can't believe she's my sister. Okay, so, and then cheeses work great. Big cheeses like cheddar. I don't know, Brian, if you tried this with your cheddar, let me know. I like what Tim said, cheeky tannins. Yeah, I have that on my tasting note. It's chewy, real chewy, right? It really gets you. They all look like horses out there. Tim's mentioning the Bellavitano cheese, one of my favorites, Tim. It's a kind of a Parmesan look-alike, right? From, who's that from? Sarvecchio? No, Sarvecchio, right? I'm talking to you. She's like looking the other way because she doesn't know. And like the teacher calls on you and you're just like, I don't know. Okay, so good move, Karen. Okay, kids. All right, so to summarize, let's summarize what we've seen here today. Okay, Italian reds, cherry medicinal. You might argue some other things in there really identifying an Italian red, but let's keep it simple. Medicinal cherry is really an underlying current through all of our Italian wines. Not all, but a lot of our Italian reds. We're summarizing here. But also, let's talk about the north and southern differences. So in the north, the Italian reds tend to be fresher fruit, more of a vegetal note because it's cooler, and also higher acid because it's cooler. So that's what we might see on our northern Italian reds. Whereas our southern Italian reds, we're going to see more dried fruit rather than fresh fruit. We're going to usually see a little lower acid, but not always. We're seeing on the Aglianico that has some nice acid. And then instead of, say, the vegetal notes, we're going to see the smoky notes. So that's, just a quick cheat sheet on Italian reds. Next week, we're going to be comparing no, we're not going to be comparing. We're just going to be talking about the new Spain, I call it. And there's really a lot going on in Spain, and it's a lot of fun. You know, there's no place like Spain. There's no place like, oh, we're still here, Karen. So both Karen and I, we were partners in crime in Spain. We lived together for a couple of years, and then she just kept living there. So, but it is a fantastic place to explore wine, as is Italy. So tune in next week. Make sure you come and see us next week. We're perfect. We're right around 20 minutes. I don't know, are there any questions that I didn't get to?
There's no questions. I don't know if you want to comment on Weaver's comment.
Weaver.
It seems like in Italy they make the wine for the food, but I don't find the same here in the U.S.
Good comment. So Weaver mentioned it seems like in Italy they make the wine for the food, but I don't find the same here in the U.S. Yeah, I agree to an extent. I think it's changing with some winemakers in the U.S. But yeah, wine evolved with food in Italy, and as a result, the wine tends to go better with the food. You tend to find a lot of high acid wines in Italy because the food is high acid, and they tend to and that's how it evolved. People didn't just drink wine on their patio per se; they drank it in place of things like water. Whereas we're a little late on the scene here in America, and at first wine was seen as a special event beverage, and so we would open a bottle to celebrate something, not to have it with dinner. That's changing. People are becoming more and more interested in drinking their wines with dinner. I mean, a lot of people do that. It's not like it's a new thing, but it's becoming more and more important that the wine is balanced with the food. And that's what I look at it. The wine is like your last ingredient you're putting into your food. And so, yeah, you don't want to, put all this pepper on your food. You're not going to taste anything under the food. You want to put just a splash of spice, maybe, because that is going to bring out the best of the food. And Weaver, there are some great American producers who are taking that more restrained style. I mean, even as something as blown out as Zinfandel, for instance, has a great example is Ridge. Ridge is a great producer of restrained Zinfandels. Some of them are up there, but they really have a lot of balance in their wine. So yeah, so it definitely in America, we tend to have more of what we call patio pounders. They drink nicely on their own. And that is also, oh gosh, I'm going to go off on a tangent here, but the point system. Those critics are not tasting the wine with food usually. They're tasting the wine on their own. So what's going to get 90 points? The one that's going to stand alone and just shine on its own for 2 sips, But drink a whole bottle of it or share a whole bottle, depending on your drinking habits. But share a whole bottle of it, and it's going to get a bit tiring on the palate. So the wines that go well with food, for 1 or 2 sips, someone might just be like, well, yeah, I'm going to give it 88 points. Well, then they don't sell as well as the 90-point wine. So there you go. You got my theory, which I agree with Weaver. I think that was a fantastic point. And Weaver saying patio pounders, never heard of it. Patio, I don't know if I don't think I made it up. I think it's been around. I think other people have heard of it. I'm not going to take credit for it. But what it is it's a wine that goes down easy. You're sitting on your patio and you pound it down. No problem. You've got those wines that just boom, done, So that's a patio pounder. So now I think I've officially run out of time. I'm right at the 25-minute mark. Any other questions that we have, I will be sure to answer them on the blog. So it's under MWS Decants. Check that out. There will also be a quiz, a multiple choice quiz, where you can win the Vineyard Fresh wine preserver. I only can give away one, so it's not only the highest score, but the first person to do the highest score. And finally, make sure if you didn't get the wine this time around, you go and either get the wine from our retailers or go to your local retailer, or find something that's just similar. You don't have to find the exact one. For Wine Explorer next week, we're going to be doing the Toro wine region from Spain. It's red. So just go out and get a red Toro. You'll be good to go. Let's see what people thought, and then I promise. I just love you guys so much. I don't want to sign off. Okay, so what do you think about the wine? I didn't do that. Go ahead and tell me what you guys think of the wine. You can tell me also wine pairings, food and wine pairings, since we're talking so much about food and wine pairings here. But this one, this is what I think. I say finish it. I like it. Price-wise, it's I think it's about 15-ish. I think right around 15. So it's a good priced wine. It's different. I'd go looking for some more Aglianicos out there. It's a fun one to try. It definitely, it was different with the smoky, dried fruit or aromas. Really liked it. let's see, buy it, drink a few glasses and still pick up the kids from soccer. Oh, that was from before. Okay, I got it. I was like, whoa, okay. Perfect. Sounds good, Christine. All right, guys. All right, now I promise I'm leaving you. Happy Thanksgiving. Have a wonderful, wonderful vacation. I hope to see you guys next week. I am Jessica Bell from My Wine School, where it's wine your way. So no, go on. Go taste the world. Cheers.